Possession crucial from this. How much longer will the referee allow? Dublin lead by a point, and there's the whistle. It's over. It's over.
We earned it by winning the last 2 matches on the road, and that's not going to be taken away from us.
But what I love in hurling, I love players that will never give in.
He hits it. He hits it. It's over the bar. Oh, holy Moses.
Hello, everyone, and welcome along to our latest episode of the RTÉ GAA Podcast. The Football League is up and running, hurling following suit this weekend. So we've got a double helping of league action to look forward to with Peter Canavan, Jacqui, Tyrrell, Declan Bogue joining myself and Rory. Let's start with the football then, lads, because 4 cracking Division 1 games to look forward to. And after last weekend, I think everybody's just waiting for this to get going. Derry, Tyrone, Mayo, Dublin, Roscommon, Galway and Monaghan against Kerry. No doubt about it, Peter, the game of the weekend, Derry, Tyrone. I think Mickey Harte could probably tug out in the shorts himself, given the heat he's going to be feeling at this one.
He's well used to that, Jacqui. Well used to that. Yeah, look, it's promises to be a great occasion all around. There'll be some crowd at Celtic Park, and for all the battling that's going to take place on it, the 2 counties are come together. There's a march organised for the campaigns for Patsy Kelly and Sean Brown. The search for justice goes on there. So you'll have a lot of Tyrone Gaels and a lot of Derry Gaels marching to the Free Derry Corner before the game, and then they'll march up to Celtic Park and get behind their counties. And I would say you could well have 10, 11,000 at least. It'll probably be packed, maybe 12,000 at that game. So there'll be a sense of occasion. The outcome, believe it or not, in terms of result is not the most important thing from a Tyrone perspective. And I think most people would agree that Tyrone are a bit behind Derry at the minute, that Derry are top 3 contenders for an All-Ireland title. They are, in terms of their development, they're a good bit ahead of Tyrone at this stage. Tyrone had 6 debutants last time round. So you have a young up-and-coming Tyrone team playing against a very experienced Derry team. So if it can be competitive from start to finish, I will be happy. I may not get the result that I want, but I've no doubt, even though, as I say, it's not championship, it's not knockout, but you can be guaranteed that both sets of players will be giving it everything on at Celtic Park on Sunday.
I think that's interesting, Declan, the point that Peter's making, that maybe the result isn't that important. I'd argue that it is in a way, because just given everything else that's been going on, the emotive sense that's going to be there that Peter is talking about, the Mickey Harte factor, I don't know, I feel like the result of this one actually kind of is important because of those things.
Yeah, and so much as I get what Peter's saying, and I had noted down about the march that's going to happen, because I thought you might ask me about maybe strength of feeling or reception maybe that Mickey might get from fans, visiting fans, just to make the point that, the important thing happens from Free Derry Corner up to Celtic Park. Anything after that is pantomime. It's fun, okay? And what I was going to think was, why did, say, for example, the Glen players play against Kerry? Because I'm fully convinced Mickey had said to them, this is the year that we go down to Kerry and beat them on their own patch in the league. In the same way as when he came in Tyrone in 2003, if I'm not mistaken, Peter, he went down and beat Kerry down there. And that was perhaps one of those results that goes a long way to showing, look, we're on top here. We're actually competing. I don't know if it's that. I think it's probably more important for Tyrone to get a positive result out of Derry than Derry to actually get a positive result out of Tyrone, because right now they might be feeling that after having won 2 back-to-back Ulster titles that they are in a much stronger position than Tyrone, and they can nearly afford to have a down week. It'll be extremely interesting to see what level that Conor Glass and Ethan Doherty play this weekend. Kieran McFall, will they be given a half off, for example? But there's no doubt about it. Like, in terms of there are some games that you just pick out. I think Derry will have picked out the ones against Dublin and Kerry. They're the ones for me, which I think they're going to say, we're going to win them come hell or high water. And the rest of them, they'll just do that thing of trying to gather up about 6-7 points and then do a slow bicycle race, not get relegated, stay in the top division, as most top teams would do with the league.
What do you think, Rory?
I thought it was very interesting, Declan's point about the pantomime, but I suppose that will be something that a lot of us will be very, very interested in, because whether we like it or not, it's really odd to see Mickey Harte wearing a Derry tracksuit top. And I know people will say, well, sure, look, he wore a Louth one for the last couple of years and that wasn't such a big deal. And I suppose that's why it wasn't such a big deal, just by the virtue of Louth. The chances of Louth coming across Tyrone League or Championship were small-ish. Now, there was a chance, obviously, last year they could have drawn each other in the group stages, but they were unlikely to cross paths. Now, this is like Mickey Harte, who's such a, he's such a revered and significant and massive figure in the history of Tyrone GAA, taking them on like at a time when he's got a team that could potentially challenge for an All-Ireland. I think it's fascinating.
I agree. I really do. And Peter, I know you're laughing because I actually think, even I was watching you on League Sunday last Sunday night, it was like, is it still rankling with you watching him in that tracksuit? For a lot of Tyrone people, when they see him in the flesh on that sideline, I do actually think that there could be just a bit of, I don't know. Look, maybe we are making too much out of it, but I think Rory's right. I don't think anybody in Tyrone ever expected that they would find a day like this.
I agree with you. I agree totally with you.
Yeah.
But look, it's I suppose we've had time to accept it now, and you have to accept it and move on. And whether you like it or not is completely immaterial. And does Mickey Harte care about how he's perceived outside of his own setup there? Absolutely not. He's a very focused individual.
But Peter, can I ask you on that? And I mean, look, we've seen legendary managers move. I mean, Mick O'Dwyer's legacy and reputation and the respect with which he's held in Kerry, was that damaged by him moving to Kildare and Laois and all of the different counties? And it probably wasn't. But is there a danger that it could be for Tyrone people?
If he had moved to Cork, would it have been damaged?
Probably not. And we could do with him.
Look, again, as a player, when I played for Tyrone, I didn't play to win any popularity contest. You play to do your very best to win, and Mickey's no different. Absolutely, there's no doubt about it. The reaction immediately the news came out that he had went to Derry, it caused rancor, and a lot of Tyrone Gaels and Tyrone supporters and people that backed Mickey for years were very disappointed to see that. But that decision has now been made. There was no place for him in the Tyrone setup. He wouldn't have been that happy maybe with the way things and the way that it was managed at the time. Maybe left a lot to be desired for a man that has given so much to the county as he has given, be it club, underage and Tyrone senior teams. So he's entitled to do whatever he wants. And as I say, come Sunday when he's on that sideline, you can be guaranteed, no matter what has been, what will be shouted at or what will be said on the sidelines, he'll not hear it, because he'll be totally consumed with what's going on between the white lines on the pitch. And look, that's the way it is, whether you like it or not. It's time to move on. And as I said on Sunday night, he's there because he believes he has still got it within him to take a team to an All-Ireland title, and he believes that he's going to get his hands on another All-Ireland title before he eventually does retire.
Yeah, well, look, it's fascinating.
I think there'll be a sending off or two, Jacqui. I think this will be a very physical game. I don't think there'll be any quarter asked or given, and I think it'll be a nice busy afternoon for Noel Mooney. I think he was a good referee, by the way, but I think he'll have his work cut out.
Yeah, I really will. Look, that's going to be fascinating. We could actually sit here for half an hour and talk about that game alone, but I am conscious there is 3 other games in the division that probably will hardly get the headlines this weekend, Declan, that maybe they deserve, including a derby between Mayo and Dublin, who themselves very rarely give us a boring game. So I think that one will be interesting to look out for, particularly, I think, given that the Dubs lost last weekend. They go there now knowing maybe they have to get something from this game.
Yeah, and like I was just looking at it and comparing the two teams, and like there's been so much longevity with that Dublin team, and you've still people who are still going so many years after. But Mayo, in credit to them, we might just see Cillian O'Connor, Aidan O'Shea, and perhaps Rob Henley, who's had a very unexpected renaissance after it seemed that Colin Reap was settled on as the number 1, and Ross Byrne is the second, the number 2 behind him as his deputy. But then Kevin McStay has gone back and got Rob, who had a good season with Raheny in Dublin.
Very good season, yeah.
Yeah, and you've got these guys who've been basically spending their whole entire careers chasing Dublin, have managed to beat them twice in championship football, and are still standing up to them. And that's, I said the word pantomime. Is there ever a greater pantomime, really, than O'Shea and the Dublin fans? And maybe there is, because they seem to genuinely dislike Cillian O'Connor, because Cillian O'Connor is one of these players that I think it was Garrod Haggerty that said, like, anytime that he sees a foul that he commits on TV, he goes like, how on earth is that a foul? Like, Cillian O'Connor is one of these, a bit like Peter in his day, where he had a great tackle on him for a forward. Like, he really would go hard at the Dublin defence. But, all those kind of things aside, there was a great yarn. Someone told me actually that Rob Henley went to Raheny, and somebody said to him in the dressing room, look, Rob, you're going to settle in here. Fair play to you. You're going to get into the vibe. You'll be a great lad. You really enjoy Raheny. Just keep doing what you've been doing for the last 10 years. Kick every kick out to Brian Fenton in the middle.
And then,
but that's the point. It's going to be a great game. Always a great occasion. There's always plenty of Mayo travelling support that'll go to that. Sorry, it's in Castlebar, isn't it?
It's in Castlebar.
Castlebar.
Yeah. I mean, Mayo have given Dublin some hockeyans there down through the years. Like, there was an 18-point one. I forget which year now, but they've really given them plenty of good beatings in Castlebar.
The thing is, as well, with Mayo, Peter, like last year, they were flying at this time of the year, and we were tipping them as All-Ireland contenders. If they were to beat the All-Ireland champions, it probably, look, I know, again, it's very early. We're not going to get carried away, but I do think for Kevin McStay, in terms of instilling belief in this old group of players who've been there before, they've done this, it would be another yardstick for them to measure themselves against.
Well, it wouldn't be like the beginning of the National League if we didn't build Mayo up and they get a couple of good wins and they're going to win the All-Ireland. So, but this time around, I don't think anybody, I do expect them to beat Dublin.
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody will be getting too carried away by the fact that they defeated a Galway team without Peter Cook, without Killian McDaid, without Damien Comer, and a Galway team that looked out of sorts apart from those absentees.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have a Dublin team not firing on all cylinders at the minute. It'll be interesting if Desi actually sticks with so many of the same personnel that played against Monaghan, because defensively and in particular, they looked all over the place. There was obviously a lack of pace in key positions. Now, you have to counter that by saying that not everybody is as fast as Stephen O'Hanlon or Michael Bannigan. But so Dublin, like last year, know that there's a bigger picture ahead, and it's a case of timing your run. And I think nobody was able to time that run better than them last year. So I think that's what Desi's at there. But from a Mayo perspective, Kevin McStay can't worry about what others do. I think he will be well aware from last year too that he has to, when the time's ready for his side to peak, and if they keep winning in the meantime, then fair enough. But I think he and his team are very much well aware of the bigger picture.
It does. Maybe I feel like we say this every year, Rory, but for that particular group of players, it does feel like every year we say this could be the last dance as well. Like there is. I guess that growing sense for a lot of these players that at some point it needs to happen for them, and it still hasn't. For all the time that Declan talks about they've beaten Dublin and all that, they still haven't done the thing that they want to do, which is win in All Ireland. So what's the difference now for Kevin McStay this year?
I think he is starting to, like, I mean, what I've always loved about Mayo, right through from James Horne's first spin around the block and all the way through to Rochford and now on to Kevin. They have an incredible ability to regenerate and find new players. Everyone, assumed Lee Keegan once in a lifetime. Along comes, next thing Sam Callan arrives on the scene. The name escapes me now. The young Owen McLaughlin, the young lad that's gone to Australia. That they got a couple of Oisín, right?
Yeah.
Like, so I mean, they have just an unbelievable depth. It's a big thing to play football in Mayo, to play for the county team. They've made it an incredible brand in and of itself. So I think if Cillian O'Connor and Aidan O'Shea, I mean, we've seen a good few shuffle off already. Kevin McLaughlin obviously went. Jason Doherty went over the winter. There's been a few already before that go. Mayo will just keep doing what Mayo do, and eventually it will happen for them. And who knows, this could be the year. This might be the year where there's a little bit of an off season but I don't necessarily see them ever changing unless the day that does come where they do finally get over the line. And sure, look, wouldn't that be something for everybody to rejoice on?
Yeah, my God, the whole country would be into that one. So let's just say Dublin then, right, Peter? Dublin, obviously, no panic, very, very early stages. Different situation, though, for Galway and Roscommon in the manner that they lost last weekend, I think, to Dublin. For both of these teams who were beaten in week one, I would think that both of these need to, whoever loses this game is suddenly in danger of the drop zone. And I think this game probably has a lot more riding on it than maybe that Dublin one, in spite of the fact that they lost last weekend as well.
And even the Derry Tyrone one, Jacqui, I would include in that as well. I agree, absolutely. In terms of results, this is the big one in Division 1, because if Roscommon or Galway come out of this with a defeat, that's them after 2 games, nothing on the board, and with a lot of difficult games ahead of them.
Yeah.
So absolutely, this is vital. Now, again, you talk about the luck of the draw, and when you play certain counties, when you're drawing out again them. Tyrone were playing Roscommon last week without their St. Bridget's players, massive loss to them, and Andy Smith wasn't available. So, that's a massive plus to Tyrone. Obviously, you can say the same for teams that are drawn to play Kerry at the start of the league. Much better time to get them than towards the end. That's lady luck. But now you'd think Roscommon have those players back, that it's imperative for them. They're very strong in Dr. Hyde Park, and I'd be surprised if Galway can turn around their fortunes. They still, I'm led to believe, will not have Peter Cook, they'll not have Cillian McDade or Comer. So that's a big challenge to go there and to get the points. But I take your point completely in terms of Division 1. It's a massive game Sunday.
Yeah, I think genuinely, Declan, to me, that's the one. That's the one where they both have to be absolutely targeting this game, whatever else happens in Division 1 this weekend.
Yeah, look, it's never advisable to lose against your provincial neighbours anyway. But Galway's concerns, that I think Park Joyce actually confirmed Peter Cook was gone. I had actually thought, with the way things were going, that with the different people returning, with Dylan McHugh returning, with Kieran coming back, I thought that Galway might actually engineer a situation where they might free up Sean Kelly to do sort of a Brendan Rodgers, not leave fullback and go midfield and become this mobile midfielder that would support Cillian McDade then. And then you'd have Damien Comer also. But that spine, it's never really cemented down because of injuries to all three of them and absences through whatever. But Roscommon, they will know themselves that there's a little bit of off colour. They didn't go back as quick as other counties. Other counties were back long before Roscommon. That's just the classic situation of having too good a start of the league and timing it a wee bit better. But all of a sudden, the league has become this massive thing where the first weekend of it is the most important weekend of it for many counties. Like the first 3 weeks sets the tone then for the rest of the season. If you take a look at most Division 2 and certainly Division 3 and 4 counties, if they do have a bad opening 3 rounds, then their season essentially is cooked and it's gone. It's over for them. So, like, you need to be loading an awful lot into that first weekend. You need to be getting points, but then the pressure's on. The pressure's on both of them. So what happens, how it comes out in the wash, then the losing manager is going to be under unbelievable pressure then.
Yeah, I totally agree. Last game in Division 1 then this weekend, Monaghan, Kerry. And if you're in Monaghan's position, Rory, and you've already taken down Dublin and now you want to go and play the other All-Ireland finalists, nice little start to them. And as Declan says, also playing without some of their key players, and Peter referenced this as well, without the Cliffords, the timing of these runs is really, really particular for Monaghan because they could be set up and flying to start of the year.
I give them a great chance of winning again at the weekend. I think they won't really be all that worried. Like Kerry minus the Cliffords is a completely different proposition, really, to what you would face when they are playing. We all know it. That's pretty obvious, and anyone watching football. I think Monaghan will fancy their chances big time. I mean, they've no injury concerns really coming out of last Saturday night. They're in pretty good shape. All their players that he's kind of, moved into some new positions. They're all playing top of their form. O'Hanlon, Bannigan, Killian Lavelle, even the goalkeeper, So I think, I think it'll be another very good game, and I'd give Monaghan a really good chance to put another 2 points on the board.
Yeah,
Monaghan could end up winning this league.
Well, that's what I was going to say. If Peter, you're in Monaghan's position and you needed to get to the next level and you're finding these players at this stage, would you go hard after a game like this against Kerry and get the points on the board and suddenly start looking upwards rather than just maintaining your status in Division 1 if you were Vinnie Corey?
Well, we'll go back a few days, and this time last week, and majority of people were suggesting that teams is going to be relegated. Monaghan was on 95% of people's list. Monaghan and one other, Tyrone, Roscommon. So just because of one game now, I don't think Vinny will be saying we're safe here. This is going to be, some team could have 6 points here, could have 6 points, and still end up relegated, going down. So it's going to be a really competitive Division 1. So I don't think that they will be approaching this game taking it lightly, whereby but I think in typical Monaghan fashion, they'll not play as well as they did last week. There'll be a lot expected of them now, and maybe they'll not deliver. If they were going in backs against the wall and everybody saying, they've no chance, that's when they produce a big performance. So look, Kerry, if they can match their second half intensity that they had last week, they'll be tough enough not to crack even without the 2 Clifford. So I would give a hesitant vote to Kerry and for this one. Yeah.
Well, look, that's Division 1. Let's leave that aside for a minute because we do have some Division 2 games to look forward to as well. Armagh, Meath, Fermanagh, Kildare, Louth, Cork, and Cavan, Donegal. And just even when you're looking at it from the outset, I think, Declan, at the start, you were looking at Division 2 and everybody says it's a bear pit and who's going to come out of this. Rory was kind of making the point off air about the timing of when you get the run with these. Half of that is the luck of the draw in Division 2, because if you get some of the big boys at home and you get them good and early, for the likes, like let's say Armagh, if they can get a good run early, suddenly they're looking at promotion, getting to a league final, which would be enormously beneficial to a team like his who really need to get a winning mentality good and early.
Yeah, look, the Armagh would have been many people's favourites, and certainly going up last weekend against Louth, the Louth, I suppose people's perception was slightly damaged since Mickey Harte left, and it was, he didn't rate them, he didn't truly rate them. Ger Brennan came in, and Ger Brennan has had a minimal enough experience. He hasn't been a county manager in another county yet, and this is his first job. But from what I've seen, speaking to Armagh people were very frustrated and felt that Louth completely matched them. And yes, again, our old friend the Gale, it makes a massive difference, like weather conditions and on weekends like that. But there'll be question marks just exactly on the style of play with Armagh. They're on the go now, and it was 2 years ago where I think they beat Dublin in the opening round of the league in Croke Park, and they played this amazing, expansive game of football. They weren't like, and since that they've gone away from that, and it's always been felt that among Armagh fans that the best time to watch Armagh is when they were in the qualifiers, because there wasn't time to do an awful lot of planning and scheming and matching up players, so they would just go toe to toe, and there would end up being these remarkable, entertaining games against. For example, I remember them playing Roscommon in, I believe, Portlaoise around the middle part of last decade. It was one of the best games of football you could ever watch. So they're playing Meath. They have Meath, and Meath will be. Meath's confidence won't be great, because last week they'd have been expecting to get off to a good start, and really there were 3 points down to Fermanagh with 15 minutes to go, and essentially Fermanagh didn't do enough to close that game out. They could have snatched it still with the last score, Meath, but they didn't. And starting off with a draw at home to Fermanagh in Park Tailteann wouldn't be where they wanted to be at all.
Yeah, and look, they're in a completely different headspace, Rory, than Armagh is. And the point you were making about, I guess, just that draw, that if you're at home for 3 of your first 4 matches,
it's very favorable.
Pressure's off you anyway. Yeah,
that's a very favorable fixtures draw. I'm not saying anything untoward happened, but I do find it curious, because if you flip that on its head, Cork are away 3 out of their first 4 games, and to Donegal, Louth, and Fermanagh, 10-hour, 12-hour round trips. Now, look, I do think, like Declan made a point earlier about how getting a little bit of momentum in these first couple of games at the start of the year can largely define your whole season. So the draw that you get can have I think personally, and maybe Peter, no, look, having played at the highest level, might beg to differ, but I do think the draw, in terms of, they call it home advantage for a reason, plays a part in that.
What do you think, Peter?
Yeah, I agree completely, and it's very unusual that does happen. Normally, the league sorts itself out where it's, by and large, you have one home, one away, and that's always the fairest means.
Like, is anybody else like to go have back-to-back home games on your first 2 weekends is particularly curious, Peter, would you think?
Well, it hasn't happened in Division 1. Is it happening in Division 3? I don't think so either, the way it's all turned out. So I have no idea what the reason is for that. That's highly unusual. But I think, I know everybody's talking about Armagh and Donegal, and after week 2, or round 2, I expect Armagh and Donegal to be sitting top. But the big games are, Armagh and Donegal see themselves as Division 1 teams, very much so. But Cork and Kildare see themselves very much as Sam Maguire teams and not Tailteann Cup. And if Cork don't get a result from Louth, if Kildare don't get a result going up to Fermanagh, then they will be at the bottom of Division 2. And if you recall, last year it was the top 5 teams in Division 2 entered the race for the Sam Maguire. So at a really early stage, after only 2 games in the league,
pressure.
There's 2 teams under serious pressure. So as early as it is, massive games for Cork and Kildare this weekend.
Yeah, I agree, Declan. I do genuinely think that, yes, we've already outlined who we think might win this division, but the real scrap is actually at the bottom there.
Of course, and nobody wants to going into the Tailteann Cup as the relegated team must be the most dispiriting thing for a team. Is, imagine presenting that as this is your reward. Okay, you're relegated, you're not longer, but here's a cup where essentially you should be winning because you've tempered yourself for 2 months against the best possible teams who are a level above this competition. But at the same time, you can't help but imagine that your spirits would be flagging big time going into a Tailteann Cup. I was up in Ballybuffet on Sunday, and I just could not believe Cork. I just couldn't understand. There's been a lot of sort of deep dives already into what exactly Donegal did or what Jim McGuinness did. And to me, he did the most sensible things. Like, he used the conditions. Like, there was a gale blowing towards the River Finn end, and Cork they won the toss. So they said, no, we're going to play into the teeth of a gale in the first half. And I'm thinking of a former manager back home who used to say, take the advantage as soon as you get it. Like, take the advantage of the first half. Second half will sort itself out. And like in the last 15 minutes of that half, Donegal took 9 shots. One of them went wide. 8 of them went over in the last 15 minutes. They just simply, whenever they got to within 50 metres of the goal, they let fly and they let the wind take the ball over. And then in the kick out, then they just pushed everyone hard. And Cork were a wee bit scrambled. They could only do a running game. They got a goal out of it. They got a point straight after. So they were on level terms. But after that, they never took off. And in the second half, what did they score? 2-6, like, you know, they only eight efforts in total at goal. So, you know, if they don't sort themselves out, then and I would have thought that John Cleary would be exactly the man who will sort out Cork. Is certainly appeal to an awful lot of Cork qualities. Then they could be in for another year of just kind of bobbing along.
Declan, do you not think any other team would have struggled the way Donegal played? Like, you're out there saying they're shooting the accuracy from distance. I thought there was periods in that game where Cork, again, the breeze actually played very well and cut Donegal open, you know, numerous occasions, and the scoreline maybe was a bit flattering towards Donegal, but the level and the difference in the Donegal side in terms of application, honesty, the way they went about their business is completely different to last year, and I think they're at a level beyond any other team in Division 2 at the minute. So I thought at times Cork actually didn't play that poorly up in Balbafay.
No, you're right, but I suppose what struck me about them is their unwillingness to actually have a dig then, like in the second half. And John Cleary said that the wind died down. That can happen, but they still were playing the exact same sort of running game. They got their goal when Gavin Mulroney, the goalkeeper, was caught away up the field and lost. Possession was lost in the move. But you're absolutely right. When they did get the running game going, at times they looked very good. I will agree with you. Donegal looked superb. That was also a Donegal team without Warren McFadden, Ferry, Oisin Gallen, Michael Langan, Jason McGee. It's like Hugh McFadden. We named about 10 different people who you might imagine, if you say them out loud, well, that's a Donegal starter. That's a Donegal starter. They could have some panel heading into the summer.
Yeah.
I'll be up in RTÉ on Sunday. I'll be up in RTÉ on Sunday, so I can report back to you on Monday, Jacqui, in terms of how it goes. 1 o'clock throw-in. So big game, all right. Big game for both counties. Big game for both counties is for sure. We look forward to that, Rory. Peter, we're going to have to let you go. We've got loads of hurling to chat to as well, but thanks a million for being with us.
Enjoy, folks. See you later.
It's over the bar!
Well, Jacqui Tyrrell has joined us now. We're going to chat through the Hurling League, which is getting going this weekend. And
thank God.
Yeah, thank God. I think, listen, let's get it going, Jacqui. It feels like we've waited long enough for this beautiful game to come back. How excited are you?
Yeah, look, super excited. And off the back of what I say, 2 great club All-Ireland semi-finals and a great final as well, like unbelievably exciting stuff. So look, just great to have the beautiful game back. And look, a very low-key build-up. Would have liked to seen an awful lot more hype about, considering the gap from the All-Ireland, which was last July, to now. I would have thought more of a bigger campaign around the hurling year being back and how exciting it is. And look, we're going into, you know, territory with Limerick going for 5 in a row. Like, you know, I just feel we've so much to be shouting about, but I just don't hear too many voices about it. And it's just been I think there was a soft launch of the National Hurling League. I would have liked it to be an awful lot more noise about, because it's great to have hurling back.
If you're in Limerick's position, though, you're probably happy enough with that. Like when you were going for 5 in a row, you probably kind of like just let it all kind of happen away in the background. Give me a sense of what that's like.
Yeah, of course. Look, for the players' point of view, and particularly for Limerick, they'll want it down, play it all, you know, the drive for 5 and all that kind of stuff. They'll just want to keep it very much as the process and, you know, just getting back into pre-season, building up to the league, going about their business as quietly as possible. I know there's stuff going on in the background with them, which will probably come up throughout the year, which they don't really want to probably go there. So, you know, when we were back there, you know, we just come out of 4 in a row. So the 5 in a row didn't feel a whole lot different when you went back into pre-season. I suppose looking back now, the year generally went okay. It was all around probably the All-Ireland semi-final. I think it was Cork that year where John Tennyson had picked up a cruciate a couple of weeks before it. And in that game, Brian Hogan broke his finger and Henry did his cruciate. And then after that, it just seemed to all kind of unravel with the whole masquerade as regards Henry being down in Ger Hartman with John Tennyson. And then when they did, you know, the miraculous comeback and then the 10,000 of training, it just seemed to kind of gather momentum out of that. But look, that's probably been a bit dismissive of Tipperary, because on the day they just hurled unbelievably in 2010 and they were so hurting so much from 2009. But that kind of side choke definitely didn't help our case. Would it change the whole lot? I'm not sure. I just think Tipperary hit the sweet spot that day. But it's just a different dynamic, the 5 in a row.
Yeah, it's funny because Declan, you used the word pantomime earlier when we were talking about the football sense. And there is an element of that around this Limerick team that, there's just so much fanfare. They've obviously had all that stuff going on in the background that Jacqui is talking about. And it does seem like for them, maybe getting on the pitch is actually the thing that they probably need the most.
Yeah, but the team that goes onto the pitch is not going to be the team that is going to be the front line players who are going to be trying to win in All Ireland. Like, I mean, I wouldn't be flush with a huge amount of contacts down in Limerick, but I have been talking to people who are friendly with others on the panel, and the sense that I'm getting back, like, is that you'll see the frontline players, the Barry Nash right through to the Declan Hands, right through the Seamus Flanagan up the top. They'll be coming back at week 3. Even at that, round 3. Maybe even half of them be back by round 3. They'll not need them, and I say this and I don't like saying it, they'll just not need them against Antrim, because an Antrim team, to give Limerick bother, needed to be going full bore. But there's been so much loss between Neil McMaster's retirement and Keelan Malloy, Sean Elliott, Nigel Elliott from the Dunloy team, that it just the team that they'll be bringing down, Darren Gleeson's going to have a big fight in his hands to keep them competitive this year. So Limerick won't need them for the first round or 2. But so essentially, when we talk about this in the football, that what happens in round 1, 2, 3 in football can define. Limerick can go and lose every league game here. They don't care. They are in that. I don't know if it was the same for Jacqui and Kilkenny in 2010, but essentially it will not damage the confidence one iota of any of their players if they get relegated, because they will have played a very small role in the league, and it is all about the big squeeze, what happens through the Munster Championship and then further on.
Yeah, and I totally accept that point, except that, Rory, this group are winners. And, I think even when they started losing in Munster last year, it didn't sit well with them and they wanted to rectify it quickly. So I completely accept Declan's point, but I still feel like this group that John Kiley has put together just wouldn't accept substandards.
And I think there's a little bit of an incentive with the league as well this year, in that the top 3 in each division will form part of the Division 1 for 2025. So, and then I think the team that finishes 4th in each division will have a playoff to make the 7th team. Is that correct, Declan?
No, it's actually the best placed 4th.
The best placed 4th team. So they're not going to have a playoff, no?
There'll be a playoff now. No,
okay, so the best placed 4th team. So that there'll be your 7. Now, to be in that 7, I think is going to be absolutely essential for the top teams, because you number 1, you're going to get, basically it'll be Cork, Kilkenny, Galway, Limerick, Tipperary, Waterford, Clare. Let's say that's your 7, right? I mean, that's serious. They are serious games to get in advance of your round robin. They are proper, with the prospect of relegation attached down to the Division 2, as it will probably become known. So it'll add a little bit of extra bite into the campaign. Now, we won't see that obviously until next year, but it impacts on how teams approach the league this year. And I think from a Limerick perspective, no different to any county. They will want it. They'll want it for the gates. They'll want it for the big crowds. They'll want it for developing players. They'll want it for the competitive nature of playing against all the other brilliant teams that you have at hurling at the top level. So I think there will definitely be a lot more attached to the integrity of approach that managements will take for this year's campaign. Well, I certainly hope they will anyway.
Yeah, I see the merit in that, Jacqui, because if you are playing at any level, whether it's league or championship, you want to be playing in the top level. And yeah, Rory's right. It's not going to impact what happens this year, but that is a big carrot for a lot of the county boards in particular next year, for who they might be able to attract to come and see those home games in the league in 2025.
Yeah, this league, Jacqui, this year's league is a pathway to next year's league. Yeah. And you have to be looking forward to going, right, okay, we want to be in that 7 next year and get those competitive games, because we were, the last 3 or 4 years, we were kind of becoming a little removed, the league, the mirrors of it. You've seen some really dead rubber games on it. So it needed to bring accountability back into it. And this most definitely has done that. So I'm all on for that, because the league, it's probably not what it was a good few years ago. I remember the league being absolutely ferocious, like some of the games we used to have. And like Brian Cody used to always say, you'd learn so much from going up to Galway in a miserable day in Salt Hill with a breeze blowing straight down the field. You'd find out about lads' characters that day. You mightn't find a whole lot about their skill set because you'd be playing in the bog, but you'd find out if a lad is up for it. Likewise, going down to Clare, like some of those games going down there, you'd find out exactly. But that we'd gone away from that. But I think this is definitely a step back towards those kind of days, which we're all on for. And look, the big concern about the league is how close it is to the round robin and how competitive that is. It's 2 weeks. So look, getting to a semi-final, you'll probably still have 3-4 weeks, so there's nothing wrong with that. So I welcome this league. I welcome the way it's going. And next year will be even more competitive again. I definitely think this is a pathway towards it.
That's the key. So the round robin, the league final is the 7th of April, the round robin 13 days later. And if you're looking at it, Declan, you might say, okay, take Limerick aside, right? And we've already discussed the merits of what they do. What about the other teams and their ability to want to be able to maybe A, play in a league final, or B, looking ahead to that round robin, which is literally 2 weeks after that? It's a very, very tight turnaround. So give me the merits, I guess, of some of the other counties. Who would it benefit to actually be in a league final?
Yeah, this is the obvious one. The absolute standout obvious one is, sorry about this, Rory, but it's Cork, like, you know what I mean?
I know, you're right, though. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's 26 years, like, 26 years, you know what I mean? Is it possible that Patrick Horgan's entire career will come and go, like, and he'll not win a single national title? Like, that is just, it's just beggars belief. Like, the longest, Rory, if I'm right in saying, gap now that there's ever been for Cork without winning the Senior All-Ireland. Like, Cork
in Hurling, yeah,
sorry, in Hurling, yeah. Cork needs silverware. They absolutely need it. They crave it. Waterford might think they have got it, but like, I mean, Jesus, like, they've got Walsh Park back now because it was just a bit detached for them all last year. But they don't have Tig, De Burka, they don't have Austin Gleeson. Like, you know, they've got the 3 Bennett brothers back, but there's so much flux there that you just don't know. And like, losing Austin Gleeson, losing Tig, De Burka for a year, it just seems like there's too much to go. Tip will just do what Tip want to do. Liam Cahill might feel he wants to, but he went down this road a wee bit with Waterford too before. So God knows what his approach would be. I don't think that you're going to have any kind of idea. Which leaves really, when you're looking at it, Galway and Cork, and I think they're the two teams that are going to go kind of bald-headed for it. Like, and 13 days gap, getting to the league final and getting a competitive game in the league final will be enough that they will write that off and say that's good enough work. Unlike like Limerick and Kilkenny last year heading down to the park, where it was just so completely two uninterested teams, and Limerick still managed to do it, like, you know, with a walkthrough of a performance, really. Yet Cork, for me, like, this is it. Like, it has to. It's all in for Pat Ryan. Like, he has to get something out of this league.
Should you not have said Super Value Park there?
Yeah. I think that his point is well made, though, Rory, because it does feel like there has been a lot of talk about Cork. They're coming, and every year there's a growing sense of optimism. And I think we saw shades of it last year. You look at what the games that they lost were by a point. You know, they were very unlucky not to get out of Munster. What's your sense of where this team are at now?
Well, Pat named a 37-man panel there yesterday, or was it the day before? But I was looking at it, and now you can sometimes look at these things with very insular and very rose-tinted glasses. But if there's a stronger 37-man panel out there, I'd be surprised. So
in the whole country?
Yeah, I would definitely go so far as to say that.
He's tough, fighting talk early.
I think he has unbelievable depth, but I think where the problems come, from what I can see anyway, and this is what we certainly saw last year, we've got an awful lot of players at that 7.5, 8 out of 10s, right? Not that many 9.5, 10 out of 10 players, which Limerick have in abundance. And I think getting the sort of, you know, a mainstay of 6 or 7 players that you can absolutely bank on week in, week out, particularly when the round robin comes around, Seamus Harnedy is probably pushing on a little bit now. Obviously, Patrick Horgan is pushing on at the same time, and we know the clock is ticking for them. So it is going to be a case of other leaders needing to step up. But I think, look, in the likes of the Ben Cunninghams and Dara Flynn's and a couple of others, and one thing that you will say about Pat won't be afraid to throw them in. They will definitely see game time, and they will play, and they will have to play in a certain way. He has definitely, I think you'll still see that very direct style. The onus being on win your own ball, but I think Declan is spot on. I think, look, they need to win something. And a national title, obviously a league title, would, like, they've won a couple of Munsters, obviously, over the course of the last few years, or the last however many, but yeah, a national title would be good, just even for confidence alone.
Yeah. I mean, look, Jacqui, especially if they have the best panel in Ireland there, you know, they'd want to be putting that to good use, wouldn't they?
Yeah, big words from Rory. But look, I do echo some of what he's saying. If you look at the volume of players they have coming through with the underage success they've had, the question for me would probably, they seem to have a lot of similar profile type of player.
That's always been the problem, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I would take, for example, Tommy O'Connell, a really, really good hurler, but they have maybe 8 or 9 5'10" guys, really dynamic, really good on the ball. Out of all those lads, have they
like Tommy O'Connell, Owen Roach, Brian Roach? They're all very samey, aren't they, Jacqui?
Have they a Cotton O'Neill, a leggy kind of 6'1" dynamic guys who can't break into the Limerick squad? Have they a Cotton O'Neill? Have they those type of dynamic, kind of X factor type of players? So it's looking at that pool and trying to extract, right, who could be something different for this Cork team that we've been missing the last couple of years. And that will probably only fall out of the league when Pat Ryan exposed them to these games. And then also, there's a lot of kind of players like Seamus Harnedy, like Conor Lehan, these type of players, Patrick Horgan, that are probably at an older demographic that, and this is going to sound harsh, haven't got it done at this point.
Yep.
So how many of them do you go back with? So they play Limerick in a round robin. Limerick have ate up and chewed up Conor Lehan year in, year out. Patrick Horgan has probably got a bit of success out of him. Seamus Harnedy here and there. So if you're going back to Limerick with them, sure, them lads are going to be rubbing their hands together going, look, we've done it with this lad. But if you throw in a Brian Hayes out or somewhere new, someone that you're not expecting, that you're not used to playing. So it's getting the mix right between both is really crucial for this. Because look, Kieran Joyce is an outstanding 6. They've built a reasonably good defence. You'd still have question marks, even though Damien Callan still comes up with answers from time to time, but he can do kind of erratic things at the back and can lead to a goal. You think of the goals that they conceded last year, again, Tipperary as well. So there is some question marks at the back. Sean O'Donoghue has definitely shored up and given a good level of support there, but it's just there's so many options in Cork. It's landing on the right 26 and within that the right 15.
And just one final point, Jacqui. I think, look, we didn't really see the best of Robbie O'Flynn last year. He's obviously he's fully fit. And Alan Connolly, for me, Jacqui mentioned about coming with something different. Alan Connolly didn't hurl a ball last year because he was injured for pretty much the whole year. He's back reasonably fully fit. Probably might even get picked to start against Clare on Sunday. He'll make a big difference as long as he can remain fit.
Well, look, if Cork have to have a big year, they're not the only ones, because Declan, you mentioned there's a couple of other contenders there who it might be good. What about Galway? Because again, similarly, we've seen flashes of that over the years, but maybe the same problem that Cork have had. They've picked a lot of similar style players and maybe just haven't got exactly the most out of this group of players. So can we see something different from them this year?
I'm not so sure, because I don't know where they're coming with from players. I mean, I just thought it was a remarkable turn of phrase that Ian Burke, for example, and just to pick one player, like, you know, Ian Burke was remarkable in the club final, and you know, that point that he got at the end was just something special. Like, it was incredible, falling backwards over the shoulder point on the 21 on the sideline, and then we asked him, we got around him afterwards, and one of the questions was, like, you know, what's your county aspirations and what can you achieve at Galway? And he says, well, I've kind of been there for the last 8 years and I haven't been good enough, like, you know. So I think, like, you know, Ina obviously expects Henry to stick with what he has done and what he has achieved so far. I mean, they had, you know, well, they were flawless in Leinster right up to the final, and then they were flawless in the final right up to the final play. How far are they away? like they have to be right there, like in the mix. I mean, you know, Cillian Buckley's goal was one of those incredible situations whereby, like, the defender just puts his boot onto the ball, can go anywhere, and it end up in the net, and it's another Leinster title for Kilkenny. That was Galway's Leinster title. The momentum gathered off that would have been unbelievable. They're going to go with what they have again. They're going to have Evan Nealon on frees. They're going to have Conor Whelan as the man to hit. They're going to go with Jason Flynn. They're going to have Carl Mannion, the Coonies. Like, you know, they're ready to go. Like, you know, it's just, I suppose, and I haven't really studied what way other fixtures fall. Rory's the man for that. But, you know, would a league title maybe give them that wee bit of a push on? I'm not so sure. Not so sure that they need that. But yeah, look, themselves and Clare in a different situation without Tony Kelly. They'll be looking to see, well, what can we actually gather up out of ourselves without Tony for the year. And really, no, I still come back to it. Like, it's Cork's title. They have to go after it. And every other team will be targeting. Just stay safe, get in that top 3-4, finish it, and get ready for next year's league, and pour all into the championship.
Yeah. Well, Jacqui, can I ask you about Galway specifically then, right? You know Henry better than anybody. So last year, he felt he got the right tune out of Galway, and that stroke of luck with Cillian Buckley's goal is just something that is so rare. Like, if they'd have won that Leinster final, he might have felt they were right in with a shout of winning the All-Ireland. Do you think he changes things drastically? Because they were very close to getting it right. You know, even we're talking about picking the same kind of players. He knows what he wants from this Galway team, doesn't he?
Well, I suppose the acid test isn't Kilkenny, unfortunately, Jacqui, in the Leinster final. The acid test is Limerick. And when they came up against Limerick, they came undone, like Kilkenny did. So can he go back with the same thing again? He can, but he'll probably go against the same result, and maybe even worse, because we know Limerick will continue to strive for perfection because they're not that far away. So I don't feel he can go back with that same team, because it hasn't got done. Like, how many times has that Galway team tried to get over line with Limerick?
It was also, Jacqui, the manner of the defeat last year was bad now.
They just took over completely. So I feel Henry, when I heard that he was going to go back, I feel Henry's going to go back for at least 2 years and try rebuild something else, and come with something new. Looking in from the outside, I don't see a whole lot of younger guys that you just bring in straight away like Cork have. So he's going to have to really dig into the roots of the Galway Championship to see if he can unearth 2 or 3 gems to bring some freshness, to bring some life into this Galway team. Because, yeah, look, maybe if that stroke by Cillian Buckley, if he doesn't get that goal, it gives him a bit of confidence, gives him more vigor going into the championship, and they might put up a better performance against Limerick. But essentially, I think it doesn't change a whole lot. Galway probably, looking back, weren't good enough to beat Limerick last year, and going back with that same team, I don't think it's going to get the job done. So knowing Henry, he'll be looking for something different and looking to unearth a couple of maybe 3, 4, 5 players to bring into this Galway setup to come with something different, that when they come, if they come up against Limerick, or more so Kilkenny, that they have something different.
There's just so many talking points around this new Hurling League, Rory. But one thing that we generally have at this point of the year is about 6 or 7 new managers. It feels kind of weird that everybody's in situ. You know, you're talking about Henry going back in. You're talking about, you know, everybody seems to have a sense of what they have. Apart from Keith Rossiter, you're pretty much looking at the same deck right across the board, which is very rare for hurling, actually.
It is very unusual. Nearly every county, the managers stayed in situ. I don't know whether it's maybe
there was a huge turnover last year, though.
Last year,
there was a massive. So a lot of guys are still only in their second or maybe third
exactly
year.
Like Liam Cahill, Davey, Pat Ryan came into the job. Derek Ling, Nihal, exactly. So there was a huge. Everybody's kind of in year 2. I think that a little bit of stability might add to the quality, what we might see hopefully over the next 7 or 8 weeks. I still think, look, the issues with the league by and large is the fact that the real league is going to be for the months of April, May, and it's just really, I suppose, for teams to try and flesh out a couple of key positions, maybe, try 1 or 2 things in a tactical sense. And then for teams like Declan mentioned that really need to push on and win something, like in relation to Cork, you'll see different ambitions for different teams. I think Kilkenny are very interesting. I think this weekend's fixture is going to be really interesting. Obviously, last year, Wexford losing to, or like getting pipped by Westmeath, and then the following week going out beating Kilkenny. It was just extraordinary stuff. So that'll be really interesting game to watch this weekend in Nolan Park. Are you going into that one actually, Jacqui? Are you going to go and have a look?
I'll be there, surely will.
So, look, they've had a couple of retirements as well, Kilkenny over the winter. Richie Hogan obviously packing it in. Pádraig Walsh, I see Pádraig Walsh retire as well, Jacqui.
Yeah,
he did, didn't he?
Well,
yeah.
Real Walsh profile just slip off into the background. You wouldn't even know.
You wouldn't even know. There's no big statement or no, you know. It's interesting, all right. So, look, Kilkenny will just be Kilkenny and they'll do what they always do as well. So that's a good game to look forward to. And Cork and Clare, obviously, up in Cusack Park is another really interesting game to see this weekend to get the ball rolling.
Yeah. Look, let's round it off then with that, Declan, because it does feel like we've waited long enough for hurling to come back. It'll be gone again in no time. But I think when you look at some of those fixtures, Kilkenny, Wexford, Clare, Cork, you know, they are the highest caliber of these games. As you say, some of them are more important for some of these counties than others. But I think one thing that you will get for sure is hurling is back, and it's going to come back with a bang this weekend.
Yeah, and like the appetite for it, it's seemingly a post-COVID thing, really. And you look at the crowds that go to League of Ireland now, like, and you know, live sport and getting out there and being involved and breathing the air and at these things now has had such an incredible surge of interest. Club games and like hurling, I mean, people, they can't really understand it, that the pace goes up every year, the skill level goes up every year, they're refining game plans and everything like that. It's just it keeps on giving, and yet this is for another debate. Like, it is the sport that the GAA constantly abuse and take for granted. I mean, Jacquy's point that a soft launch, like, I mean, you know, it would take very, very little to make a massive push. The National Leagues, believe it or not, is 99 years on this year. This is the 99th year of it. So, I mean, next year you should be expecting a bonanza or something huge to mark the fact that this is the leagues now. You know, even the first year they hosted the National League, the first league game was on the exact same day as the All-Ireland football semi-final, which kind of goes to show that they buried it on the very first day of the National League. So, like, you know, a bit more promotion, and it doesn't have to be this a soft launch now and that's the end of it, and go off there and take care of yourselves. Like, there is opportunity for promotion throughout this league. You would like to see it a little more loved by the people who are actually charged with promoting it.
And I think that's a fair point on the back of, as Jacqui said earlier, one of the greatest club All-Ireland finals we have seen in modern times. Like, hurling has never been better between the championship last year. The league was actually quite good until the final last year. And the All-Ireland semi-finals and finals, as you said, Jacqui, the product has never been better.
Never been better, but we're just not screaming about it. Like, it's only for we're invested in hurling. You'd have to go looking for content of previews of a National League coming up. Like, why haven't we, like, some of our best hurlers out there talking about the game, talking about the upcoming league, the fact that Dublin or that Limerick are going for a 5 in a row? Why isn't that being spoken about? Like, we're talking about unprecedented territory, really, you know, and we're just not speaking about it. Like, I remember when the 125th anniversary of the GAA, and there was a first round of a football in Croke Park, and there was fireworks. I think Dublin played Tyrone or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, what? Like, absolutely unbelievable stuff. Like, a huge build up to that. Like, that's the type of stuff, because, like, we have an unbelievable product, as you said, Jacqui, but we're just driving it down more and more into the ground when we should be shouting, like, from the rooftops about this.
Like the All-Ireland champions should have been paired off with, you know, a significant fixture this weekend, and even play it in Croke Park. Why not have, now say to Limerick, look, you're the All-Ireland champions. We're going to officially open the National League by playing your game in Croke Park. Have you a problem with that?
Kilkenny are going to clap you onto the field in Croke Park.
Yeah, you know, I'm sure Jack would love that. You know, like, I mean, you look at during the winter months, they tried the lower level teams in Nicky Rackert and Laurie Maher.
Absolutely,
five or six counties were being, you know, mooted to be disbanded from playing league hurling, and oftentimes we hear, you know, the stuff around, for instance, GAA Go, right? If you look at that, the pay-per-view. Well, why do we do that? So we can invest in hurling. But then when we see the winter months come, we do the opposite of investing in hurling, and counties that are probably really struggling at the lower end are being asked to disband during the league campaign and play championship only to save money. I find that whole dichotomy very curious and very hard to compute.
Totally agree. Totally agree.
The final point on that is and Jacqui, you probably know this, I don't know what the arrangements are in the NFL, but the NBA always arrange it that the last 4 winners all play each other on Christmas Day. There's one fixture, if you won the NBA in the last 4 years, you will be playing on Christmas Day. And to get the All-Ireland winners to play the All-Ireland finalists on the opening day of the league, it would be very simple. They're normally always in the exact same league. Off they go, but that will take a motion from a club that will have to go through a county board, and it'll have to go through a provincial council, and it will have to be it will be basically, by the time it will get to the Congress floor, somebody along the way will have enough complaint about it that it mightn't actually achieve the 60% vote.
Yeah.
And you think, Jacqui, just one other point, the reality is this, and I know Donald has often said, he made mention that he feels that the governing body has failed hurling. And that's definitely a discussion point that, could be pushed out there, because one of the things that I find, being we'll say at the coalface here and trying to push the game, it's much harder. It's a much harder sport to administrate, to fund, to coach, to try and, get people, because ultimately the skills to play the game are more difficult. The game itself is a far more skillful game. So obviously the level of coaching that you need very oftentimes won't exist in the areas where you might have a lack of a hurling presence. So there's only one way you're going to be able to upskill these people. And it's certainly not by discontinuing roles like Martin Fogarty's and not having the likes of the Fermanahs and Leitrim's and Longfords of this world play National League hurling at the same time. At least you have a flagship team, making some kind of effort in those counties.
Well said, Rory. We'll send you in with a motion for Congress with your club chairman's hat on any of the days now. Yeah, we'll add it to the list of many things for you to do. Lads, we're going to have to leave it there because we will run out of time. People will not have enough time to listen to all of the previews for the games that are coming thick and fast at them this weekend. But wherever you are going to matches, enjoy it. Jacqui, Declan, thanks a million for being with us. And we'll be back on Monday with a look back on the weekend. We'll chat to you then.
Thank you very much.